Welcome to week 7 of Ldrs 5333, Leading Across Cultures. We've got 2 more weeks to go. You guys have been doing an awesome job looking at the different cultural models and deciding which one you want to use to evaluate your chosen country, comparing it to the United States. For this week's informal video, I'm doing a screencast. Just wanted to point some stuff out that should help you in your paper. This is week 7. You'll notice that we ask that you do a course evaluation. Make sure you go in there and tell us how you liked the course, how I did, what you thought of the material. I'm sure you've done those before. You will need to do that to open up week 8. I believe they have it set up so you can't actually get into week 8 unless you do the course evaluation. But I appreciate the feedback. This week you have your cross-cultural paper due, and this is where the assignment goes here. We also have one discussion forum where you will post your paper by Sunday at midnight, and then you have 2 days to Tuesday at midnight to read 2 of your peers' papers. Pick a different model, different country than yours, so you can learn from others, learn from each other about how culture differs in some different countries than the one that you picked. For our paper, and we'll open it up here. All the instructions are right there. I just wanted to point out a couple things again. You're going to choose, which I think everybody already has, one of the models, whether it's Hofstede, Trompenaars, or one of the globe models to compare your 2 cultures. Make sure you use some form of diagram, and I'll go over those in a little bit. It really helps to visually show the differences, I think, that you write about. The key to this is you want to show how the differences or similarities affect communication, motivation, and teamwork, kind of 3 main elements of leadership. We also want to look at it from a Christian perspective. So you want to connect something from the Bible that supports what you've discovered. Short intro, short conclusion, and then the meat of your paper, about 7 pages, 2,100 words, should be on that comparison. I don't need a cover page. I don't need an abstract on the paper itself, but I do ask you to put an abstract as a paragraph in the discussion forum. Please use APA format for in-text citations and the reference list. Remember, it's not works cited, it's not a bibliography, it is references in APA. And I will also point out some of those things here in a second. You need to have 10 sources, so probably 1 or 2, I would imagine, will be, at least 1, obviously, will be the model, whatever article or book you got that from. And then the other 8 or so sources should be specifically on the country that you're studying. And I've pointed out a bunch of resources that you could use. In the beginning of the course, I'll probably post them again for you in the discussion forum for this week and email it to you just so you know what those various sources are. Please keep it close to 2,100 words. I want you to be concise. Don't just go on forever and ever trying to put more in, thinking it'll make a better paper. We want a nice, fairly concise comparison that you could give to a coworker or a boss or someone that's going to work with somebody in another culture, and that they could read that and then understand some of the challenges that they might have. I'm going to include this document in our folder I'll probably stick it in the DF and send it to you via email. But these are just some writing tips that I've accumulated over the years that I think might be helpful to you. Just general stuff, a lot about APA and then other general things. I will reiterate again, reference list, not works cited or bibliography. Let's see here. I'm going to point out this is an APA, but this just shows a pretty thorough way to do a graph. You'll notice I've got some Hofstede numbers here, Korea, compared to the United States for individualism and collectivism. But in addition to a bar chart and the colors and the numbers, I also give a low, a high, and an average or mean score. That's important to put the numbers in context. Now, it's hard to do when you're graphing them sometimes. I've seen people try to put an extra bar or two in there, but it makes it a little cluttered. You can draw it like this. I generated the graph out of Excel, and then I later drew the boxes and the lines in there with the numbers to put everything in perspective. But I would recommend doing something like that, or for sure, talk about these things or write about these in the text. So otherwise, numbers by themselves, not in context, sometimes don't mean a lot. Now, clearly there's a difference here, 18 to 91, but I still think it's good to put them in perspective. Let's see. There's a lot in here. I just wanted to point out something about format. So here's an example. So Northhouse 2012, that's when that book was published, says, and then the page. Notice where I've got the period, where I've got the quotation marks. If there's italics in the quote, leave them in there, or bold, or any type of other emphasis. You want to keep the quote exactly like you found it, or you might make a note. If you add the italics, you could put that in brackets. Here's another way to do it. If you don't want to start off with the author, I agree with the statement, put the quote, and then last name, author or authors, right? The date and the page. Here's a paraphrase, same thing. These are my words now, but I'm giving credit back to Northhouse. And there's one more way to do it there, where I'm putting his name in the citation. The other thing I wanted to point out was graphs. So some of you are going to use the Hofstede model, and doing bar graphs on the 0 to 100 scale is pretty easy. You'll see I have Korea, the United States, and some Arab countries compared here. I still like my little color coding scheme where I can tell whether they're in the middle, gray, blue, high number, red or pink, a low number. I can visually see it here. Here I've got a nice little table with the average, the low, and the high, so it gives me a lot of information. 6 dimensions in Hofstede are pretty straightforward. Do remember that long-term orientation has either the Chinese or the World Values Survey. Okay, the other one that some of you are doing are the Globe project, and here I have Globe values and Globe practices. Some of you are just doing one or the other, or some of you are doing both. I would recommend, if you're doing both, to make sure that you put both the graphs in to see the differences. For example, here's performance orientation value versus practice. You'll see that in one case the values are a lot higher than the practices, and here the United States value performance more than the Koreans, whereas over here in practice we're actually a little bit less. I would use color codes in here too. I don't have them on this particular one, but that might be helpful as well. I generated these graphs in Excel, but you could do them in other programs. Then we have the Trompenaars model. A few of you are doing this model. And this one's a little bit more challenging because they don't have a single dimension score. So in the chapter on universalism versus particularism, here are 2 of the questions. I just have them labeled by the number of the question. So what I would recommend is that you explain the question and then you talk about the differences. So for here I've got Korea and the United States. For question number 4.1, And then over here I have for question 4.3. You'll notice from my color codes that the US is very high in this one, and whereas Korea is low. That color should be pink, not blue. Using table 4.3, you can see that Korea is on the low side, US on the high side, and then the two Arab countries are more in the middle. But you would want to either pick one of these that you want to talk about specifically, or show all of them. Typically they'll show a similar pattern. You can see some of the other ones that I've listed here. But one thing you don't want to do is try to make an average. So you wouldn't want to take these scores and average them together, because that makes them meaningless, because they're tied to a specific question. If you try to average them, which I think some of you did to create a graph, it makes some nonsensical information that's not valid. So don't do that. So if I go back to the discussion forum, you will see here that I want you to post your paper to the forum, attach it with a brief abstract, and then read 2 of your classmates' papers, and then ask them a follow-on question, and they can dialogue with you. That's the gist of the assignment this week. We do not have a quiz. You are all done with your quizzes. Maybe you're excited about that, or maybe you like the quizzes. I don't know. But I want you to concentrate on doing your paper, doing a great job on it this week. That's why we don't have any outside readings or anything like that. Hopefully, in and amongst all that, you've had some time to watch the Olympics. I think there's been some amazing feats of athletics going on, and a lot of culture being displayed. I thought 2 of the most interesting, one was kind of not a like country culture, but maybe a generational culture, when one of the fencers lost their cell phone in the middle of a match. I don't know if you caught that or not on the news, but here's a picture of it right here. I don't know why an athlete would have their cell phone out while they're fencing, but it seems part of our times that we are forever connected to those devices. The other thing, more country cross-cultural, I thought, was when Egypt played Germany in the women's sand volleyball. And you can see a picture here of the German, who's typically clad in what women beach volleyball players wear. I'm not sure why they can't wear a t-shirt and shorts like the guys do, but that's what they like to wear. On the opposite side, you see the Egyptian player in traditional garb, the hijab, and maybe some athletic version of that. But they actually played in that outfit. I just thought that picture in particular was a great representation of the sometimes extreme cultural differences that we can encounter. Hope you guys have a great week. I pray that God gives you lots of wisdom and knowledge to write your papers, and lots of time, and that you can get your work done, that you can get your school done, that you can spend time with your families, and hopefully, in your ministry too, and hopefully get a chance to watch the Olympics maybe.